November 1st, 2018, Cumberland County Commission Workshop Meeting. Please stand and join me in the pledge by saying, I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Call this meeting to order at 9:05 a.m. And at this time, open up the floor to public comment. And the public comment has to be related to any item that is on the agenda for this particular segment. Any other public comment will be held until the end of the meeting before other business. So does anyone have any comments regarding the agenda? Okay, hearing none, seeing none, we'll move on to agenda items 3 and 4 and call on Dana Best to discuss the budget resolution 2018-25, followed by agenda item number 4, laying the 2019 budget on view. Dana?
The sinking fund is requesting to increase revenues and expenses by $12,265,000, and that's for the refunding of the 2011 DOB that we had done previously. There's no impact to the general fund in 2018. The savings from the refinancing is in the 2019 budget and the debt service. And then agenda item 4. We're requesting to place the 2019 budget on view on Monday. The general fund expense budget is about $87.7 million. We are projecting to actually spend about $84.5 million. The total county budget is $284 million. And also we have provided updated projections that will be placed on the budget from, we did the FAC and we had the election machines in 2019. We moved the projections to 2020 and made them $5 million. And that's the median range of the 4 to 6 million. And I'd like to thank all the county departments and finance team for pulling this together. It takes a lot of hard work and dedication to pull everything together. Any questions?
Well, I do. With request to the placement of the budget on display, you said the general fund is what? Because the last time I looked at the big budget, I thought it was 82 million. You said, I think you just said it's 84.
The revenue number is 82 million, the expenditure number is 87.
80 what?
87.
87 million?
Yes.
Okay.
87, 710, 521.
Okay, what's the big driver of that? From the current year's budget?
Medical is increasing 9.5%, retirement 33.8%, and then normal salary increases. That's the major
And the
drivers.
current year's budget is what? General fund?
I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay, well, I'm going to take a look at that. The other thing we need to discuss, and I was willing to bring it up under other business, but we still, I don't believe, have made a final decision on, we just had a presentation yesterday from Katie on some funding proposals. We also have to make a decision with respect to the downtown services program that's operated by the Housing Redevelopment Authority. And last but not least, on our funding authorization for farmland preservation program in 2019. So those are items we can talk about now. We can wait until later. I don't care how we do it, but they need, I think, to be addressed before we put the budget on display.
I think we can address those under other business.
Okay. Do it under other business. Thanks.
Thanks,
I don't want to give anybody the impression those items have not been discussed. They have been discussed in initial presentations before this board.
Well, we haven't made a final decision.
Correct, but they have been discussed.
Sorry.
Okay. Well, we need to make it final. We need to put it to bed so we know what we're doing. You know, for those items, you know, I would like to understand a little bit clearer as to the size of why the budget is now $187 million versus whatever the expenditure was this year. I think that's important.
Okay, we'll do that under other business.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Dana. Next, we'll move on to agenda item number 5, contract grants. Agenda items 5, Roman numeral 1, A through D are existing contracts, contract extensions, or amendments with no additional cost or increase to the county. They include the following departments: assessment, children and youth, district attorney, Bureau of Justice Services, and MHIDD. Commissioners, do you have any questions, comments, or concerns regarding any of the above-mentioned agreements? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to agenda item 5, revenue numeral 2, which consists of new contracts, vendors, services, grants, and contracts with increases and decreases to the county. We begin with calling on Robin Weigel to discuss the agreement for assessments. Robin?
This is our camera maintenance agreement. It's a yearly agreement. There is a small increase because of the CPI, but all services will remain.
Are there any questions for Robin? Thank you, Robin. Okay, the next item on the agenda is Cumberland Nursing and Rehabilitation Center, and since we do not have VTC, I'll dial them in.
Good morning, Ms. Melissa.
Hi, Melissa, it's Sandy and the commissioners.
Good morning, everyone.
We'd like you to discuss your 2 contracts for CMRC, one for Cantata and the other one for Renal Treatment Centers.
Okay. Cantata is the contract for support, fees, and maintenance on the software that we just purchased from them, and the software that we currently have. It's known otherwise as Keen or NTT Solutions. The monthly rate for this is $18.39 and an annual rate of $22,068. And that's what the Cantata contracts are for.
Okay. Any questions, Commissioner, on this? All right, you can move on to the next one, Melissa.
The next one is with Renal Treatment Centers Northeast. We had a resident be admitted here, and the physician would not allow him to transfer to a dialysis center here in Carlisle or any of the others that we had a contract with. So we needed to do this contract. It's a 0 contract. It's just they're providing the service.
Any questions, Commissioners, on this? All right, Melissa, thank you.
Sandy, before you hang up, I have a capital. Do you want to call me back at that time?
Well, we can move down to the capital. That way I won't have to bug you again.
It's fine.
Okay, so your capital is for the O2 concentrators.
Yeah, the oxygen concentrators.
Okay.
We currently rent 40 to 45 concentrators every month. If we purchase these concentrators, there'd be 35 5-liter Invacare oxygen concentrators and 10 10-liter Invacare oxygen concentrators. The price for those 2 are $26,603. And then I looked into a preventive maintenance contract, and that's $1,200 a year for all 45 concentrators. The return on investment with this, it would take us a year and 4 months. And the concentrators are good for an average of 5 to 7 years.
Any questions on that, Commissioner?
That seems to make good sense.
Yeah, good decision.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you all. Have a good day.
You too. Bye. Next item on the agenda is agenda item C. And I'll call on John Locke to discuss the agreement between Facilities Management and Dynatech Generators. John?
Good morning, Commissioners. This is a 3-year service preventive maintenance agreement with Dynatech for the county-owned generators. The cost is $7,400 per year. There is no increase in the cost from the previous 3-year contract.
Any questions for John? Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, sir.
on to agenda item D. We're calling in the strike. Oh. Is anybody here for MHRPD? We'll move on to agenda item E. And I'll have to call Claudia since the VTC is not working, so.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Claudia. We're here for you to discuss the public safety grant for the Radiation Emergency Response Fund grant in the amount of $21,489.
All right. Yes, we would like to seek your approval for accepting the grant agreement for the RERS grant for fiscal year 18-19. This grant supports expenses related to emergency preparedness and response abilities to radiological emergencies at the 3 Mile Island Nuclear Facility. And since a piece of Cumberland County sits within the EPC, we are eligible for this funding. And the amount is $21,489, and the work plan that is outlined for that funding is to help support the federally evaluated exercise that will be coming up, fast approaching in March, and replacement of a few computers in the EOC that are designated for 3 Mile Island use, and some batteries for equipment and calibration of the other equipment we have on staff. The amount is approximately $500 less than last year, but it's fully true to the 3-year average. And again, that's for performance period of July 1, 2018 through June 30, 2019, in the amount of $21,489 from Team Up.
Any questions, Commissioner?
Just, is this the thing that we got an email about to electronically sign? Is that?
That is it.
That's
yes.
it.
It is going to be done through an e-grant process, so that will require, after your approval on Monday, of course, require you to go back in through the e-grant system and electronically sign those documents.
Okay. So I'm not too late. I should wait until you actually act
No,
on it.
you're not
and
too
then
late. You're
I
good.
somebody can show me how to fill the thing out.
It took a little while. I can do it.
Are there any
You
other?
think I can do it?
You can do it.
Claudia, while we have you on the phone, I think we're going to jump down to your capital project request.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
All right, so public safety is seeking your approval to move forward with a non-routine purchase of Power DMS. It's a software solution that's web-based application that will allow us to store, update, distribute, and ensure access to critical training, policies, and documents. Specifically, our staff will be able to easily access, read, and electronically sign policies, take continuing education courses that we develop, and associated testing, and store those certificates all in one place. All the while, it'll be a tracker and use, it can track user name, date, time, and renewals. The software will basically streamline several current manual systems into one easy solution and ensure continuity of information by updating all of the details in one place, tracking the revisions, and provide a quick reference of upcoming renewals to ensure that recertification requirements are not missed. Current users of the system include Lower Island Township Police and Carlisle Police Department, who are very happy with the service that it provides, and the employees appreciate the easy access to policies that they need to reference. We did have Mark Adams from ISO joined us at the initial vendor presentation, and he reviewed all the technical requirements as well. This is a calendar year 19 budgeted item, and it is eligible for the 911 uniform funding. If you approve, we will proceed with presenting a 3-year agreement to you at the next workshop meeting, and that is in the amount of $17,072. That begins January 1 of 2019. It includes a one-time basic service fee of $3,800 to to get it set up and access it. And then an annual subscription fee of $4,423.80. That's based on 60 users, which covers everyone in our department. And then, of course, Mark Adams and his team will be heavily involved with the project to foresee if there's any kind of ability to make it a county-wide solution. Again, it's a 3-year proposal for $17,072.
Any questions, Commissioners?
Yeah, Claudia, excuse me, after year 3, I assume this is a project that will continue into year 4 and beyond, correct?
Correct. What we will be able to do, and I'll talk about that more whenever we present the actual agreement to you for your approval, but the 3 years locking in at that rate will prevent any kind of escalation fees. So I assume that in year 4, when we go to renew the agreement, there would be some type of escalation. But you know, 3 years is a long time when you're talking technology, so that's why we didn't want to go any further than 3 for example that maybe Mark Adams and his team would find a better solution that would be county-wide, and then we would join in with that. But we didn't want to rule out any options. So year 4, I'm sure, would be a different pricing structure than what we have in front of us today.
Any additional questions? Thank you, Claudia.
You're welcome. Thanks for calling me. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, continuing with capital project requests, I would like to call Melissa Cavanelli to discuss the MDJ's video conferencing. Melissa?
This is a request, and actually the amount in the agenda is incorrect. It's actually $25,645.60, but that really actually doesn't affect the general fund at all. This is money that the AOPC received a grant for. We don't get the grant, they got a grant, and they are reimbursing us for these purchases. This will be zero cost to the county once we get the reimbursements, which we've already been pre-approved for. This gives each MDJ a laptop with a camera, which allows us to upgrade their video conferencing abilities. Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, their video conferencing is out of date. Like we were going to have to replace it anyway, and AOPC offered this reimbursement money. Even at that, we still had about $6,000 left. So Mark and I discussed it, and we are upgrading the mobile video conferencing cart that we do still use on occasion. Is it 10 years old or is it 8 years old? I can't remember. It was 2010 and it's 8 years old. If it was 2008 and it's 10 years old. Whatever. It's 8 to 10 years old, and again is not able to be fixed. If something goes wrong, it can't be fixed. So since the money was basically free, and AOPC was actually telling us you need to find something else to spend this money on, we made the decision to upgrade that video card. So we will front the money, and then once the receipts are provided back to AOPC, they will provide a reimbursement back to the county.
And we guarantee it'll work as well as ours, right?
IMTO? It'll be brand new, so I certainly hope so. But.
Are there any questions?
Well, I just want to make sure I heard correctly. So in other words, this is the entire cost is reimbursed. It's going to be reimbursed.
And we've already, we submitted a pre-approval form to make sure that it meets their criteria under their grant for reimbursement, and it has been pre-approved. So once we submit the invoices and receipts for these purchases, we should receive a check back from AOPC.
So when was the last time the MDJs got laptops?
Well, we've been having this project for a while now, and as new judges come in and want to upgrade or their current equipment dies, we've been replacing them with a couple of laptops to change them over to the new video conferencing. Because the money is up front, we're going to replace all of them so they're all in the same make, model, and application software, and then we'll take their existing stuff and redeploy those somewhere else.
Okay, well, that's the question I was going to ask, because if there's still
a couple of them are fairly new, within a year or 2 years old, so we can use those in other places throughout the county instead of buying a new one for.
That's what I wanted to hear.
The money was not permitted to be used for anything except MDJs or common pleas usage. So we just give them the new ones and then take their fairly new ones.
We even tried to get some video conferencing at the prison, and they shot it down because it's not directly in the court.
We tried like 4 times and they said no. But if we kept asking the question differently,
It all
maybe we'd
comes
get a
from the
different
same,
answer, but they.
it all comes from the same taxpayer's pocket. So, I
Exactly.
mean, you know,
Yeah.
that doesn't make an awful lot of sense to me, but.
No, and we
again,
explained
we're
that
into
the
this
video.
Separation of the branches again, but, you know,
And the
again,
video
money comes
conferencing
from
at the
same-
prison, and the video conferencing at the prison is primarily used to connect with the common pleas. And they didn't buy our argument, but we tried. So we're doing it, we're getting it,
That's
and
good.
we'll
Thanks.
save that money for somebody else.
Good.
Thank you, Melissa. Next, I'd like to call on Mark Adams to discuss the 2 capital project requests as follows for the computer vault life cycle 2018 and Cisco firewalls for the new courthouse.
Good morning, Commissioners. This life cycle is our second of the year. This is our fall life cycle project. We are replacing 113 computers throughout the county. The total cost is $117,735, and that is essentially hitting about 15 to 20 different departments as we replace a few computers here and there throughout the county. Nothing in the list is of any shock or any change to our normal practice.
Any questions on that, Commissioner?
Yeah. And we're 5 years is the life cycle
Correct.
now.
Yep.
Okay.
And again, anything that's 5 years old and still reusable, sometimes we'll take existing maybe 2 or 3 computers, smush them into one and redeploy those to public use computers or shared computers throughout the county. So we're not replacing everything, it's only the primary use computers for the folks.
Sounds good. Thanks.
The second capital project in front of you is for our Cisco firewall, which is actually a replacement of the equipment that was damaged down in public safety for the power issue that they had down there. So that is going to be replacing those firewalls that are down. I'll be submitting some of that invoices to Holly and HR to see if there is some way we can get reimbursement through insurance on that. But we're gonna have some redundancy down there for the firewall, adding some more licenses to allow vendors into the system for VPN connectivity and some little upgrades here and there. That total cost is about $25,000. Quotes are coming in around $22,000.
Any questions? Thank you. Next, I'd like to call on John Bittner to discuss the new vehicle for veteran patrol. John?
Good morning, everybody. This is the last time I'll ever be before you for a new vehicle. So this will be the last replacement for the last truck we're replacing, and then 10 years from now, you'll replace those vehicles, and I'll be somewhere in Hawaii or something.
Hence the shirt.
Hence the shirt, yes. So, happy belated Halloween. 27,370. It's all in. It will be in the 2019 mosquito grant, which I'll have for you like next week. But this is part of the grant.
Good price for that car.
Any questions, Commissioner?
No, we'll finally pass the mosquito season, I hope.
You could say it's over for now. Yeah. Now the ticks are out, so we're going to do a little surveying for ticks, and that'll be part. They're adding a little bit of that to our mosquito grant for next year, where we will have 2 months where we will have an employee, staff reimbursed for doing what they call tick drags or tick collections, and that's part of some of the money that is coming through the state for tick research. So we'll collect the ticks and then send them to DEP, and then they'll check and see. It's to check and see what the percentage or probability is of ticks in certain parks and areas that we picked out in Cumberland County that would have Lyme disease.
Thank you, John. Okay, next we'll move on to agenda item 7, discussion of salary ordinance for elected officials. Roll call.
Just a point on that. Since no one was here for NHIDD,
She's on her way.
she is on her way.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, that's fine, thanks.
Okay. So we'll go on with the discussion of salary ordinance for elected officials. Keith, do you want to start that one?
I will. Commissioners, you're familiar with this. Every 4 years, like the World Cup, you need to do an ordinance.
Like,
You have to be on the same schedule. So. You have to do an ordinance that establishes elected officials' salaries, excluding the DA, of course. And you have one in place for the next 4 years immediately following this year. This will be for the next 4 years after that time period.
So that would be forced period starting 2023.
That's exactly right.
We're covered till then.
Any type of discussion needs to be had on that?
I think you have that scheduled for another discussion.
Right,
Yes.
on the fifth.
On the 5th.
This makes the World Cup subject.
I thought the opposite.
Okay, you're wrong.
Team John.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, do you, I don't know if any borough officers present
Yeah.
comment about it.
You're two of them.
Yeah. I mean, do you make comment on it at this point?
I don't wait until it's laid out.
Well, you were given notice of this being on the agenda today, of course, I believe on Monday. So if you have any thoughts or opinions about the salaries 5 years in the future, I mean, now would be a time to raise them, and you could do it Monday as well.
Okay.
And when do we have to take action?
I believe the way the schedule has been set up on Monday, and Sandy, please correct me if I'm wrong, on Monday you would take action to advertise the ordinance for enactment, which has to be at a special meeting in the evening. But at that time, by the time you do that, you will need to make a decision as to what the salaries would be.
So should we be discussing that today if we're going to be?
You certainly can. You can defer that to Monday. That's really up to you, but come Monday, you need to give me guidance on the ordinance and then authorize its advertisement.
Okay. So maybe we, should notify all the borough officers.
They have been.
Okay.
They knew today, they know Monday.
Okay.
So we need to come up with the salary revisions.
Right.
And we have data in-house.
So they've all notified everything. So
I-
Dale didn't just wander in.
Yeah.
I believe the last time that we did this and then we had comment, and Commissioner Rubino was the commissioner at the time, we had comment at the night session. There was an, and Gary, you were here too, I think we had a night meeting here.
We did
and
a
there was-
night
That was the
meeting.
time person made comment.
But you really should do that now,
Okay.
because at that night meeting is the evening when salaries will be fixed by the ordinance being adopted.
Okay, very good, thank you.
I was reminded that I was here when we did the last one, so, but I don't remember much from that. It was a long time ago.
4 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, it was 4 years?
Right.
Not that long.
Okay, so are we all good with moving on? We're going to jump back up to contracts and grants, agenda item D, and calling Andy Strike to discuss the MHIDD agreement, which consists of one agreement for fiscal year 2018-19 for intellectual and developmental disabilities. Andy? Oh, there you are.
Yeah, thank you. I apologize for being late this morning. Actually, this is a contract extension. It's for the ID side of our Office and for transportation, and I've been told that it's simply an addition because we have more consumers who are using the service, which is a good thing.
Yeah. So this is an alternative to rapid paratransit?
It's probably because it's being used all hours, would be my thinking.
Okay.
So the times in the evenings or perhaps over the weekend that it's non-emergent.
Okay.
So that would be why.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
Okay, moving down to agenda item number 8, I will call on Commissioner Hertzler to discuss the reappointment recommendations to the Cumberland County Conservation District Board.
Okay, thanks, Sandy. Yeah, there's a pending need for reappointment. Denny Carmen was recommended actually by as part of the law, the Agricultural Land Preservation Board makes a recommendation. Denny has been a dedicated member of the Conservation District Board, and I would certainly recommend his continuation to the 4-year term effective in January. It's also time for designation of the commissioner, member of the Conservation District Board. I would be pleased to continue in that role for another year if my colleagues would like, or if either one of them would like to serve, I have no problem with it. Okay.
We'll move on to agenda item 9, and I will be discussing the appointment and recommendations to the Capital Resource Conservation and Development Area Council. Commissioners, you should have received a resume for Tracy Ash, who's a member at large. She's going to be appointed for a 3-year term effective December 1st, 2018 and expiring November 30th of 2021. We also have Ken Oakhorn as an alternate board member up for reappointment for a 1-year term effective December 1st, 2018 and expiring November 30th, 2019. I'm sorry. I'm like a year ahead, 2019. And I would request that both these appointments will be on the November 5th, 2018 meeting agenda for approval. Are there any questions?
You always sit here,
Yeah. Agenda item number 10, I'd like to call on Commissioner DiFilippo, who will be discussing the reappointment recommendations to the Cumberland County Library System.
Thanks, Sandy. Paul Fisher and John McCray have been board members for a while. And Karen Shirey and Judy Solarette as alternate board members are all interested in. Reappointments are for 3-year term, as explained here. And Linda Rees is a board member, and Tom Witt is an alternate board member. These would be 1-year terms, effective January 1, 2019, continuing till the end of the year. And I see no reason not to accept these folks for appointments and reappointments.
Thank you, Commissioner.
You're welcome.
Next, we'll move on to Commissioner's liaison reports, and begin with Commissioner DiFilippo.
Yes, I'll start with the library board meeting, which was earlier this week. As you know, the county library system is looking to find a new headquarters. They've done due diligence and located 2 spots, one 230 South Spring Garden Street here in Carlisle, and one over 400 Bent Creek Boulevard in Silver Spring Township. Long story short, both places would suit the needs, but it was decided that the Bent Creek location would be best. There's a projected 10 years cost savings at Bent Creek of over $100,000. So they are going to be moving forward with leasing that property. Revisions to the budget for 2019. There was a review of the preliminary budget. 2019 budget was revised slightly to include estimated moving costs. And now that the building location is known, quotes for actual moving costs will be obtained. Staffing updates, their interviews are taking place for a new part-time computer technician person. The Futures Task Group is scheduled to meet on November 27th at 4 o'clock. And that's it for the library system. This is not a liaison, well, maybe it is a liaison report. I did attend the Sarah Summit, which was held on October 23rd. This was the second one that our group has hosted. It was outstanding. We had over 150 attendees. We had a host of guest speakers and a lot of good sponsors. So the event last year was in its infancy, and within 1 year, This is becoming, I think, going to be a marquee event. So I really congratulate the folks in the LEPC, Steve Spangler and his crew, and our public safety folks, and anyone else I probably will miss, but it was really a first-class presentation, and again, a lot of good sponsors. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Commissioner.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Herzog.
Thanks, Sandy. The County's Housing Redevelopment Authority boards met Thursday, October 18. Not an awful lot to report, but the settlement at the time was imminent on the transfer of the historic Frankenberger Tavern at 203 East Main Street, Mechanicsburg, to the Mechanicsburg Museum Association. As we're all aware, the transfer of the property was complicated by the association's desire to place some small buildings, including a shed and a restroom, on the site, which required the resubmission of materials to the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission. But hopefully settlement on that will occur before the end of the year. Construction of the townhomes at Factory Square here in Carlisle is moving toward completion. Initial occupancy of 10 units occurred last month. The next round of move-ins is scheduled for mid-November with the goal of full occupancy by the end of the year. They're pulling from the wait list for the Housing Choice Voucher Program, but there continues to be more folks on the wait list and eligible than there is available federal funding. And meanwhile, the authority continues to work on updating its management information systems. The Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board held a special reconvened meeting October 24 because of the lack of quorum at their earlier regularly scheduled meeting. But they did approve at the reconvened meeting a $5,000 transfer of funds to support our planning department's initiative with Shippensburg University for a study of housing affordability in the county. And it's something that I hope that this board will take an active role on. And as we're well aware of the fact that there's a lack of inventory, as described by the realtors recently, and a need for more affordable housing throughout the county. The trust fund board members also approved a proposed 2019 budget, which Kate Malinaro will be presenting to us for our consideration and approval sometime this month. The county's Conservation District Board met Tuesday evening, October 23. There was a discussion and PowerPoint presentation about significant storm and sediment runoff on October 11 from the site of the Penn Commerce Warehouse project that's getting underway in Penn Township, just off Interstate 81 at Route 233. Apparently a lack of sufficient runoff and sedimentation controls resulted in runoff for 1.68 miles and into the high-quality designated yellow bridges. The board voted to hold an administrative hearing on the violation of necessary precautionary measures, and a fine is expected to result against the company. The Conservation District via its 16th annual golf tournament to raise funds for scholarships for college students. I believe, Vince, you may have participated in that.
It was a good time. Yeah.
They had their best year ever in terms of sponsorships, and these scholarships are used to help folks who are pursuing a degree in environmental science or environmental education. A total of nearly $6,000, $5,980 to be precise, was raised, and is likely to be more in the way of a few additional scholarships and/or higher awards in the coming year. I wanted to remind my colleagues that unfortunately I'm not going to be able to be in attendance, but tonight there's a farmland preservation informational workshop that's will be held out at Allen Road at 7 o'clock in the conference room B. We've invited municipal officials from throughout the county, and in addition to that, anyone who's interested in farming might be interested in preserving their farm. So That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Huxley. Commissioner Reichenberger.
Okay, just a handful of things. We have I was not able to attend the HID meeting, and apologies for that. Well, our workshop ran long, and it was in Perry County. I would never be in time, so I'll give you the opportunity to report anything if you have anything.
The only thing I can just speak to is we've sent out the request for proposal for the LTSR, which has been funded by the state. We're waiting responses and are currently responding through the solicitor's office. That way it's an open bid for everyone to participate in. Those responses are due back November the 16th. I know on the early intervention side of the office, there are a number of projects being funded using Health Choices reinvestment funds. SPEC is the first one that comes to mind, which is specifically geared toward birth of 3 and providing training for teachers in daycares. So that's something that they're learning about, basically how to support children who perhaps have some behavioral issues. So there's a lot of effort being put into that. Really 2 highlights from our board meeting.
Thank you. Sorry to put you on the spot, but
Understand.
I want to make the trip worthwhile.
Sure.
A handful of other things. On the planning side of the shop, nothing major to update, but Sandy, did we receive the nominee information for the?
We did. It's going to be on the next workshop.
Okay, all right. That has not been distributed yet to the commissioners?
No.
Okay, all right. Well, you did see it?
We have not seen it.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, we'll be addressing that soon, so we'll make sure everybody gets plenty of time to look at it. So we have 3 vacancies. So, only other thing on the planning side was I don't know if you guys were notified of that or not, but we did get notification of our cost to Tri-County Regional Planning Commission in regards to the transportation component. We got that at $41,500. So that's going to last next year. So a solid number now. Let's see. On recycling, a number of things going on there. Just want to update you real quick. We have, I got some articles at the end regarding the current state of the recycling marketplace, crisis, if you want to call it that, and I'm going to forward those on to you. So if you're interested in getting into the details on that, you can have that. Did want to mention that the new 902 grants that they use for capital equipment have been announced. There was some question about whether the Commonwealth would be offering that this year or not, but apparently they've come through with that. And just to make sure all municipalities have that, they rely on that, as do we, to make our recycling efforts, particularly yard waste, successful. So that's moving forward. The state's Solid Waste and Recycling Fund Advisory Committee also released a draft of recommendations aimed at updating, strengthening Act 101, and there is an online summary. I'll send you that link because it's pretty long for me to spell it out. So I'll just send it to you. It's interesting. Justin said that he's looked it over in detail and said it's. I take it from his comments. He didn't say this, but I take it from his comments. It's a bit of a curiosity because at the same time that we're in this state where the marketplace and then public policy have in effect been discouraging the continuance of recycling as we've known for the last few years. The recommendations are calling for an actual increase in the disposal bans, which is really, if you're not going to recycle, that's your hoard it or stick it in landfill, unfortunately. So it seems to be working at somewhat counter purposes, some of these recommendations, attempting to increase recycling requirements as the state, remember. So it should be made for an interesting read. I have not yet perused it in detail, but I'm sure you will be interested, so I'll make sure you get that. And also, probably the major thing over there is we've had, as you may recall, last year we had some problems with equipment and a lack of, shall we say, tender loving care by some of our municipal partners, our customers, for some of the yard waste equipment. We continue to have significant problems there. Judd sent out a note to all the municipalities with a sort of friendly reminder, refresher on what the requirements are to use this equipment, because it doesn't take a lot to damage it, and it's very expensive and difficult for us to finance that fully as well. So we're addressing that on a wholesale basis, but probably will involve some maybe a little more hands-on and personal, maybe one-on-one reminders, because we've been through a bad rash of poor use of the yard waste grinders. So very expensive. So we'll probably hear more on that. And I'll keep you apprised of that, just because that in itself is a big part of what we're doing.
Do they inspect it like when it's in the back of one municipality?
Yeah. So they sign documentation accepting the responsibility for the care of it. And it's generally one of our folks goes out and gives instruction.
Yeah.
But that has not been entirely sufficient apparently at this point. So we're looking to improve that. So that's what I have for recycling now. Katie, you were all here yesterday. We got the update on the workforce development initiative. I can tell you that's from being in attendance at a number of functions, that's really catching fire, and it's really caught the imagination of the business community locally. I think there are a lot of folks in this area, and this is we're not always at the leading edge of things like this, but I think a lot of people, both in higher ed and in industry, recognize that the economy is changing, so businesses who want to be here in another 10 or 20 years need to look at recapitalizing, retooling, retraining. One, two, or all three of those. So we have some real opportunities in this region to become a leader in this area, ensuring our economic future by being prepared to address the workforce issue that has been around for a long time and is dogging everybody now. But we stand to benefit from corrective actions and partnerships that as we saw yesterday, we've got our educational system in, we've got private employers in, and various segments of the public sector involved in. So it's not a small undertaking, and I think the plug board's interest in participating and seeing this through, it's really become a very big topic out in the business community in recent years. The CAPE programming and involvement of the CD school district and universities. But enough on that. The only other thing is I have a CCAP Academy of Excellence conference call scheduled Friday, continuing to develop the training regimen there, and they're preparing for a new class for that. As you know, we've enrolled one person in the past, and we haven't really done anything like that in a number of years. So I may be asking us to take another look at enroll in that training regimen. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Excuse me, Sandy. Gary, I just remembered we did get something from Kirk maybe a week ago on the three candidates. I don't know if it's via email or not.
He said he was in touch with you last I talked to him, but
I think maybe Jen might have sent something out as well.
Yeah, if you recall, 3 names, there were 3 resumes.
Right.
or we could ask for all of the applicants.
I think you're like 3.
Okay, well, I'll check, double check.
You and I can talk offline about that. We'll make sure you originally.
Okay, agenda item 12, I would like to report that executive sessions were held on the following dates in 2018, October 22nd at 2:10 p.m. and October 29th at 9:15 a.m., all regarding personnel issues. I would also like to request an executive session be held directly after this meeting regarding personnel issues. At this time, I would like to open up the floor for public comment, and I would like to begin with Donna Martin. Donna?
Would it be okay if I stepped up there? Oh, and thank you guys again. I'm hoping you might be able to help me out with something. Has nothing to do with Office of the Aging. It has everything to do with the lack of communication between the healthcare agency to my caseworker, one Casey McGee. I don't know what the proper time of responding is, but I'm sure there would be an adequate time, because it could be an emergency. But in any case, to respond, I don't think it would be 3 days to wait. She's kept 3 days waiting. I know with my own personal circumstances, she's waited up to a week to get a response from the agency. Now, I could be wrong.
This is the contractor you're talking about, the agency. I'm sorry, just so I understand, you're talking about the agency is
the service provider.
Service provider.
Correct. My services are coming out of Office of the Aging, and thank you very much.
And your caseworker is Casey, right?
It's Casey McGee, correct.
Right.
Again, I don't know again the time amount given for a response, but I don't think it's 3 days to a week.
This is, you're saying the delay is from the service provider?
Yes, in other words, you guys control the contract. State money is paying for the agencies, okay? Casey is the woman who's hooking up the public with the services on income eligibility. So really Casey's money or employees. So I would think I'd go to the people I would have contract with and say, what the hell's up here? Why would you hold this person back that is supposed to be providing and helping adequately and making sure the consumer is getting what they need adequately? But they're not doing that. They're holding her back from doing her job. She can't come out and say that. I can sense the frustration in her voice because I go to her with frustration. She apologizes to me. I tell her, you're not responsible for what someone does or does not do or what someone says or does not say. But I do believe someone can make these people understand the importance of communication back to the caseworkers who are helping the public. Now, I know they're trying to, they like your state money on contract. Must be good money. But in any case, they should be answering to Office of the Aging. The way I see it, they're working for Office of the Aging.
Well, I agree.
You know, so who the hell are they not to respond back? That'd be like you guys, and after what I heard today, you probably never want to be responding back to, because I didn't realize everything you guys take care of. But in any case,
Donna, my understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you would have an opportunity, if you want to, we have a number of service providers under contract. You know, if you're not happy with the care that you're getting, that you
I'm 64 years old. You gentlemen pointed that out to me before.
No, I'm just trying to understand. Would you're not really interested in having a different service provider?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I want this one to work. Now, I make these people work because I know my rights and I know what I'm entitled to and I know I don't abuse anything. This is a privilege, not a right, these services. But at 64 years old and having the medical difficulties I have, I'm not going to race around interviewing agencies. I'm going to catch-22. Not too many agencies commute. A lot of my doctors are out of the area, York and Gettysburg as well. They're good doctors. I deserve the best. I'm not wasting your money, I'm investing it. So, a lot of the healthcare providers do not commute. Carrie Matters happens to. So, if I can put a little bit of their money up and get what I want, Why not? They're wasting yours. And I know that sounds cold-blooded, but that is the way it is. The truth only comes out one way. And I never saw such backwards everything in my whole entire life. And they say, I'm disabled. I don't think so. But in any case, hopefully you can better help the young woman.
Well, you've been in to see us before, and we've tried to
It's
follow.
all right. I can
No,
detect,
you're
you
welcome.
know, if I'm
You're
out of
welcome.
line by coming
The only
in
reason
now, please let me
I'm
know.
speaking up is because I kind of a little bit take ownership of this, because I'm the liaison, you know, from the board to the.
I mean, if you feel I'm wasting your time by coming to
No.
you with this,
No.
you know, I'm
No,
sorry.
I
I mean, this is minor, this is nothing compared to what I sat there and listened to.
No, what I'm saying, no, you're welcome to attend any of our meetings and bring your concerns to us. I mean, that, you know, we're open for business.
Yeah,
so,
I did that.
But I will, let me follow up with Sandy Career, who's.
I would appreciate that.
Yeah, and we'll.
And I'm sure if it's happening with me, it's happening with more. I found in life you're never alone.
Yeah, I know that the job that these service agencies have right now is very difficult. They have a difficult time getting employees. But you're right. I mean, in terms of being responsive, they shouldn't have to wait days to get an answer back to the caseworker. So
They want the monopoly on getting everything the most for the least.
well, they're trying
That's
to
what
stay.
it is.
Some of them are trying to stay in business, you know, because they literally, you know, have been faced with flat funding from the state, you know, for so many years. But we're going to look into this particular situation.
All right, well, that's all I ask.
I'll get back.
That's all I ask.
If Gary Vince don't have any problem, I'll follow up.
And again, that's all I ask. I don't think it's an unreasonable request
No, that's not.
to make sure the woman's able to do her job. I mean, after all, she'd be getting in trouble if she wasn't, and trust me, if she wasn't, she wouldn't be helping me. Because I've already asked the caseworker to get the hell out of my house. I don't have a problem with that. You two men are very knowledgeable. I listen back there, yeah.
I've learned something new every day.
No. No. No, Heckle and Jekyll. I'll see you. That's all I have.
Thanks, Don.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, is there any other
You
public
heckle or-
comment?
It's not often I'm left speechless. Got it.
Yes, ma'am, I have some public comment, although I have to say, I don't know how I'm going to follow that. That was really good. I had spoken with you gentlemen a little bit. I think from my wife and I first, I want to say, we both believe we live in a great county. And Gary and Vince and Jim, I think that's largely due to your leadership, you know, and your efforts. And we appreciate it. We have low unemployment. We have outstanding quality of life. We have a government that's responsive to the needs of people that can come in and speak with you all. I would like to share a few thoughts about a person that I had an immense amount of respect for. And this respect developed over many years and hundreds of interactions.
Mr. Ravino, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Are you going to be discussing publicly what you have already communicated to the commissioners about a former employee?
I wanted to share some things to put on the record, yes.
You received the letter I sent you, is that right?
That is correct. I had to
So you're aware that the commissioners cannot and will not do anything as a result of what you may tell them?
I have received your letter.
And you're aware of that?
Yes.
Okay. I'm curious, has this person asked you to appear before the
No.
commissioners?
She doesn't know me.
Have you asked for her consent
No.
to discuss the matter? Okay, so she's not aware you're doing this?
Correct.
Well, just to make sure you're clear, what I told you in the letter previously still stands. You're talking about a former employee. The commissioners cannot and will not do anything as a result of any request you may have of them concerning that situation. So you're welcome to continue. I can't stop you. But I'm telling you again, that that's not, you're not going to be doing anything about it.
I appreciate it. But I did want to put a couple things on the record with my experience and my thoughts. And I appreciate the opportunity to do so. Karen Dooley, in my opinion, was an outstanding employee. She represented the best in all of us. Vince, I recognize the way that you bring harmony and unity to people, and I appreciate that. Jim, as you delve into issues and look into them carefully, that was Karen too. Gary, she had your passion. When we recognized Dennis Marion, and I appreciated it, and I thought that was a wonderful thing. Gary, you spoke so eloquently of the care and concern that is Dennis and is county government. I will share with you that it isn't in a job description out there, but when someone's time was coming close, and I mean their mortality, Karen would take the time to sit with them just to make sure that someone knew someone was there and someone cared. I think I can speak not only for myself, but for thousands of people that were employees at Claremont, that were the residents of Claremont and their families. They appreciated, Karen's efforts. I think when she left county employment, it was just an unfortunate circumstance. It was an unfortunate circumstance. I want to wish her well in all her future activities and endeavors. I did receive your letter, Mr. Solicitor, and it said any information regarding Karen or anyone's employment is confidential. Respectfully, I disagree. There are many things that are confidential, and there are some things that are not. When anyone is hired here by county government, that's a public action. When their salary is set, that's a public action. When they get a raise, that's a public action. So there are things that are part of anybody's salary. Why are those actions public? Because they require the expenditure of public resources. And the people who have and get the bills, pay the bills, meaning the taxpayers have a right to know what they're buying and how much it costs. And that's why those actions by law.
If you're addressing me, I absolutely agree with you. My job is to protect both the county and this Board of Commissioners.
I understand.
And I think you understand, and in fact, you probably expected my letter.
I did. And I appreciated the courtesy of the response. I truly did. So I want to wish Karen well. I want to, and she has not spoken with me, nor her attorney, nor anyone, but I have heard from several people that we have settled the matter with her. And I think that that is a credit to the board. We took just an unfortunate circumstance, an unfortunate series of circumstances, and we made them right. So I appreciate that. I wish her well, and I thank Gary, Lance, and Jim for everything you do for me and for my wife. And Karen says, please express her gratitude to you. We have a great county. I'm so proud of it. And I just want to wish Karen well. So thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you. And thank you so much for what I just saw here, where a citizen can come in and talk with you. It's a wonderful thing. And with that, gentlemen, I appreciate your time. And I've got to get to work.
Is there any other business to bring before the Board of Commissioners today.
Yeah, I'd like to just go back to discussing the budget, if we could. So just, and I'm just looking at some numbers here, in the interim here, and so if we, the projected 2019 budget is $87,710,521. What we proposed. Last year, in the current budget year, the general fund was $86,327,989. At least that's what was projected. The year before, the actual spend for 2017 was $76,635,672. So I guess what I want to ask is, what is the projected actual spend by the end of this year? That would be my first question. Do we know that?
Yes, it's on this updated projection sheet that we gave you. It looks like this. You have it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Our general fund expected spend is $80,282,202.
Okay, so that's $6 million less than what was budgeted?
Yes, I believe that's correct.
Okay.
And for 19, we're projecting that it spend $84,531,000.
Okay, even though the budget is $87,710,000.
Correct. And if the FAC that we provided, the details of the difference between the budget and the projections is listed. And one of the major things is the contingency.
Okay, so as far as I know, at this point in time, before we set the budget on display, we have decisions to make with respect to at least 3 areas. We had a request, I believe, for $17,000 from the Housing Redevelopment Authority to support their downtown program. I would like to support that request. I also, yesterday we got a presentation from the Cumberland Area Economic Development Corporation for a request, I think, total of $250,000. I think that, Dan, I'm going to ask you this, the money for the downtown program and the other discretionary grants comes out of a separate account in the Commissioner's office. Is that correct?
And we have $150,000 budgeted that's not accounted for by contract.
So how much is available for, KDIG or for the downtown program?
The $150,000 is budgeted, but that doesn't, you still have the ability to to choose a different number, up or down. And that's part of what our contingency budget is for.
Well, and I've been thinking since we got the presentation yesterday about KDIG, I'm my own mind, and again, I'm interested in my colleagues' comments, their thoughts. I was thinking about, support at this point for the defense, our efforts to make sure that we protect and preserve our military installations here. That was $50,000, and then they wanted $50,000 for the workforce development initiatives, I believe. So that's total $100,000. And then they offered this $150,000 matching grant program, which I think the details need to be worked out on that. I'm not opposed to that at this point, but I don't know. Actually, what I was thinking is that, I know that KDIG said they would administer that. What I was thinking is that actually, if they would bring the proposals to us and we would, make a decision, they could make a proposal. Okay, this is a good program for workforce development. I don't think that necessarily we should just hand over $150,000 to KDIG when I think that these are taxpayer dollars and we ought to be making those decisions. So if they have a proposal or proposals to bring to us, then I think we would consider that. But anyway, that was my thought on that initiative. So at this point in time, I would be supportive of the $100,000, which is the same amount that they received last year. On farmland preservation, I know we have that as a capital amount, capital grant amount. And you have, I believe, used preliminarily the $500,000 that was authorized last year, combined with other sources of funds to bring the amount to $760,000. Is that correct?
So in the budget, the amount that is in the budget is the amount that was allocated in 2018
Yes.
and will be spent in 2019.
Right.
So, but if you allocate, whatever allocation that you make
Yeah.
for 2019 will be in the 2020 budget.
Gotcha, okay. But essentially, the $760,000 that's in here, and I understand how that works, was the same amount that was allocated in 2017, it was allocated in 2018. The Farmland Preservation Board, after giving this serious consideration, I think submitted to us a reasonable request of $1 million, and I say reasonable because when we look at our fund balance, I think we have the ability to do that. However, in the interest of trying to achieve a compromise, I was actually thinking, I mentioned at the other meeting, the finance meeting on this, that, it's somewhere around, $1 million, somewhere around, 1% of our budget. I don't think 1% of our budget for what is supposed to be a priority is too much. Now, we could probably address this in one fell swoop here if we established a policy that identified 1% of our county budget our county general fund on an ongoing basis, to support our farmland preservation program. That was, establish some methodology, at least, to this. And if we did that, essentially we would be allocating $870,000 for the 2019 program. I think that I'm willing to go that route, but I think we need to do better than what we did this past year. And so those are my thoughts from my colleagues. I'm not going to make any motions unless I can get an indication that there's some support. I went through, the fact that we've only preserved about 15% of the prime farmland in our county since the inception of this program 25 years ago. We've all contributed to that. We've done what we could. There were some very lean years when I was first elected county commissioner, but this is one of the things that I also ran on in terms of the importance of farmland preservation. I also commented the fact that, as part of our comp plan, this was identified as our citizens' public opinion surveys that were taken as very important. Something in the neighborhood of over 80% of the citizens responded. So yeah, people need to see that. But anyway, so those are the three things that I think we need to resolve finally before the budget goes on display. And so I would suggest we try to reach those agreements.
I have a couple of questions, but Gary, if you want to go first.
Sure, we can go ahead. Hello, Governor. We really have two issues before us since this topic's come up. There's this year's upcoming budget, and then there's the budget process in general. And it's interesting to me that this is, I don't know how many years running we've had this same debate. And it's because we've set our path in a way where it's bound to come up in the same manner every year and becomes this political tug of war. We need to get off that hamster wheel, frankly. So there's a number of ways have been discussed to do that, and none of them have been acted on. So let me address first this year's budget, because I think this comments were maybe incomplete. We have a number of requests that come before us that are sort of hanging out there. There is the housing and redevelopment downtown effort, which Commissioner Hertz alluded to. We've had some ongoing dialogue with them. I see they've now finally provided some performance measures. So I'm prepared to support their request for this year, but I want to see these performance measures put into real action. A customer satisfaction survey is nice, but it's going to depend on who they choose to give it to. So I think there's some additional guidelines that need to be made. So I'll support it this year, but I'm going to expect to see some progress on this dialogue and hopefully a little more cooperation than we've received today. So that's item number one. It's among what we've classified through our budget process as the grants, which is a terrible way to classify this. But the second one was Katie. Their request very clearly was for $100,000. It was not $250,000. They did float the concept of $150,000 lending pool in order to gauge the county's interest in participating in that. The conversation was left was that they are to check with, they are to develop the concept, provide more to us, but especially to look at other funding sources. I specifically cited new monies that are available through the South Central Workforce Investment Board. So I'm very certain they will move forward with our request to research that further. I didn't take in any way that was a blanket request as part of this year's budget. So our real number, there's 100,000, as explained earlier, 50,000 for our base retention effort, 50,000 to continue our partnership with others in the Workforce Development Initiative. So, and those numbers were not new to us, they were not a surprise. This is the third year that those of the request, the multi-year request was laid out for us at the beginning of the process. We knew what it would be, there have been no surprises. We've seen good results. They've been more than willing to report back to us. We've asked for some additional modes of performance reporting so we continue to know that we're getting our money's worth out of that, which is really what we should know about, which is why I made the request of the Downtowns program. Because they should meet the same standard. The redevelopment authority should meet the same tough standards that we set for anybody else, frankly. So hopefully they've gotten that message now. The farmland preservation was raised 2 years ago, doubled to $500,000. I said at the time, personally, I thought it was too much too soon. I still remain concerned, as I explained at the last public meeting, that it is the largest single discretionary item we have. I'm not saying we shouldn't do it, but we need to be very careful how we do it, and we should also be more than willing to provide adequate oversight on that and make sure that it's accomplishing the goal that we set out policy-wise in the comprehensive plan, which is the preservation of critical soils. It's not to bail out failing farms. It's not to stop development or any number of other things that have been cited as the rationalization for it. So we need to make sure that our policy choices are aligned with the goal that we state and fund that accordingly. I meant, last word on that is, I made the point before that the 50% request was grounded with was not grounded, it had no long-term plan on how to achieve it other than simply asking for more every year. I want a long-term plan. I can agree to a long-term plan. If we want to talk about a fixed percentage of the budget, that's fine. We need to have that discussion. But we have to also recognize that with a structural deficit hanging out there, that's going to involve a trade-off. So what are we going to cut back on? Or your only alternative is to raise taxes, which is how the board last time dealt with the structural deficit, which should be a temporary measure, not a standard practice of running up the bill and then having a big tax increase to bail out the spending system. These things need to be thought through a little bit better than what they have been. If we want to commit to a 20-year plan, let's see the plan. Then let's arrange for financing that will get us to that goal. I do know that the planning department is working on some options right now on a pay-as-you-go basis And we spoke to Dana about talking to the financial community about some potential financing arrangements. Let's let that play out. Let's, you know, instead of doing what's happened the last few years, we'll get the vote through, and then it basically languishes for another year, so we have the same debate again. Let's do something this year. Let's actually look at finding a long-range plan, whether that means going to the public and asking for approval of borrowing. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's simply a commissioner commitment to a fixed percentage. But if you're going to say a fixed percentage, then commit to the tax increase that's necessary to meet that percentage. So at least propose something specific. So we have yet to work that out. We need time to work that out, but we got to start if we're going to work that out. So it seems to get forgotten after every budget vote. So here we are still years later, and we don't have any alternative to this political tug of war in which we have set up various programs of high importance to essentially compete with each other over a fixed bubble of money. So we need to get off of that. We need to get out of that system. Now, if you're going to keep this all together, if we don't find a way to change that, and by the way, we've missed one, land partnerships, very important program. David, do we have a number for land partnerships? Because every year we get here and we start talking about cannibalizing land partnerships for farmland preservation. And then we're going to cannibalize this, we're going to cannibalize that. We got to get to a point where our decisions make some sense when it comes to this and treat these things equally. Yes, we have all said farmland preservation is a valid goal of the comprehensive plan. It's not the only goal. We have a whole range of goals. And virtually all of these things, land partnerships, CADIC, the downtown revitalization program, they're all related to the comp plan. They're all mentioned as very important goals in there. But I don't think having them slug it out between each other for who can get the big share of the pie is necessarily the best way to meet the goals that are enunciated in the comprehensive plan. So if we want to stay on that, then we need to recognize that we have a, for lack of a better term, a comprehensive plan initiative, and then we'll make allocations based on those competing interests. But we should go in eyes wide open and realize that when we're increasing one line item by 50% or 100%, that's coming at the expense of somebody else unless we're putting a tax increase on the table, or we're willing to make some very serious cuts to something else. So we've got a number of options out there. We're late in the budget year again. We're being asked to make a decision, and in my opinion, we haven't, as a board, done the proper groundwork to make a wise decision for the long term. So I would say the numbers that we have, that Dana's presented to us, I believe are very workable. They will help us make substantial progress in all of those areas that I just mentioned, all of which are vital to the comprehensive plan that we adopted and all advocate for. So at this point, I'm willing to support the numbers that have been put forward. Dana, what's our number for land partnerships? Do we have one?
I believe it's close to $200,000. It's
Yeah.
the Marcellus share.
Okay, that's the Act 13 money,
Yes.
and anything else, or just Act 13?
Just Act 13.
That's just the Act 13. Okay, that's a good, healthy amount. I like that. I'm willing to support that package, because that's what it is, a package of numbers to complete our comprehensive plan initiative, for lack of a better word. So that's where it is. That's where we are for this year's budget. But we need to get cracking and start talking about what we need to do either in our budget process or how we handle this initiative so that we can act for the long-term betterment of the county without ignoring the serious challenges that we face financially as well. Hopefully that's all I have.
Okay, I want to start with just a couple of questions or a comment. The presentation yesterday, CADIC did not request $150,000 for their grant program. It was something for us just to consider probably for 2020. Their request was for $100,000, $50 from the military and $50 from the workforce initiative. The Housing Redevelopment Authority of $17,000. Dana, this is already within that contingency fund of $150,000. So I'll now move to Keith. Keith, do we even have to make a motion on that? Or we just...
No, it's already identified as part of a portion of the budget now.
Okay. Now,
Well, wait,
Go ahead.
there's $150,000 put into a discretionary
yeah,
account.
right.
It's not identified to any specific
Right.
organization.
But it sounds like right now, the Board of Commissioners is okay with the 100 for the CADIC request, 17 for the housing redevelopment. Does that have to be specifically identified in a?
To my knowledge, it does not. I'm going to be the expert.
Well,
No.
if it's discretionary funds that we don't authorize it to be expended for CADIC or the downtown program, I guess it just sits there. So
Until you.
I would like to make a motion to.
Before you make any motions, Jim, let me have a sub.
All right, go ahead.
So then we can, all right. Okay. So we're clear there on what we support any amount, the 50, the 50, and the 17. The farmland preservation, Dana, right now for 2019, you have a $500,000 budgeted as a general fund. I'll call it allocation/grant.
It is the allocation from 2018. So 2019 will not hit the budget until 2020. Where we're putting, when you make the decision on what we're going to allocate for 2019, we put it in wording in the beginning of the document.
Yeah, all right,
But a true, the decision is actually made in January.
yeah, when we certify. Now, last January, we certified, from what I can see, $607,000 out of the general fund.
Yes.
That included Clean and Green rollback, the $500,000, and the Hornbaker PA. Yeah, there was no other funding. This year, what I'm seeing, assuming that 500,000 is not the same, we will obtain about 90,000 from Clean and Green, and 113 an additional 85 as a co-broke from the Silver Spring Preservation Program regarding the Jaeger Farm. And that would, my numbers estimate for 2019, the certification would be $720,000, which would then be used to acquire state match. Now, yeah, every year, even before I got on the board, this was always, a contested issue of farmland preservation. I don't think anyone on this board disagrees the importance of this program. It has to continue, and it will continue. At least if I'm here, I'll always have a vote that it continues. What I'm hearing is for the cover, the budget cover, whatever, the $500,000, I think would be agreeable to all three of us. But looking at the future, and this is, in fact, I'm going to ask our new chief clerk to make a priority in working with our planning director and others to actually come through with some type of policy formula that we can use for farmland preservation for 2020 and beyond. Dan, I know you've done a few studies in the past, and correct me if I make any misstatements. When we borrow money, that may not be the best idea because the interest that we have to pay back cannot be used for state match. We've also looked at, we're looking at maybe some other options, but the option of just paying as we go really makes a lot of sense in many ways. It's probably the best bang for our buck. But, it doesn't mean we can't look at something else potentially. I know, I believe Berks County at one time for a period of years did a bank, almost like a revolving credit bank when the pays they went. It went for about 4 years. Maybe that's a possibility. I don't know. But whatever that answer is, let's nail it down in 2019, so that this time next year we're ahead of the game, in my opinion. For 2019. This is my opinion. I think if the three of us can agree to continue what we did last year, the $500,000, That would mean over the last 4 budget years, this county has, out of the general fund, contributed $1.75 million. The 4 years previous to that, the county contributed only $330,000. So I think this board is making some headway, and certainly showing that farmland preservation is top priority. And whether we even need a motion on that, I'm not sure. I mean, maybe for clarification.
Does anything change?
It would not be if we left it at 500,000.
Amen.
It's
Sorry
not,
to keep turning to you, but I have to really understand on the budget matter.
so the 19 allocation actually is not in the budget. So all it changes is the wording in the fund.
Well, yeah.
But-
Exactly.
Yeah, if I might, I appreciate the comments, Vince, appreciate your comments, Gary.
And yours too.
The problem has been, and I mean, in all honesty, this should not end up, and I agree with moving forward, we need to develop a better plan on how we're going to address this. This should not be the caboose. If it's a priority in our county, this should be considered like all the other priorities that we have. I personally believe that when we are sitting on a fund balance projected at the end of 2019 at $27.4 million, that we could afford to provide a little more for farmland preservation. And of course, based on history, that fund balance may likely be larger than that because the general fund budget actual expenditures usually come in, as we talked about, below what was projected. So in any event, I know that this ends up being a focus of debate. And it's been a focus of debate ever since I've been a commissioner. The first year that I was elected, and I hate to repeat this, but essentially we were faced with a budget crunch. Now you can blame previous year farmland preservation authorizations. You could also blame a bunch of other stuff like the building of the prison without the funding to pay for the debt service. But anyway, there was a $9 million structural budget deficit, and it was hitting us pretty hard when I got elected. So we were forced into the very stark situation where we not only had increased taxes, but we froze wages this county for a year, and we took some other actions that were very unpopular. But we were not able those years to provide sufficient support for farmland preservation. Whereas maybe if there had been if this had been identified as a priority and it would have been factored in, that it would not have been blamed for the tax increase that was necessary. And in fact, farmland preservation has never been the reason for a tax increase, as far as I know, in Cumberland County. So, but having said that, I gather there's no support among my colleagues to go beyond the $500,000 that has been appropriated in 2017 and 2018 from the general fund for farmland preservation. So I'm not going to go through the process of making a motion to that effect. I do hope, and I think it does have merit, that one of the things that we do is maybe take a look at the idea of 1% of our general fund moving forward that could be allocated for farmland preservation. As long as we continue to have more applicants or farmers, then we have available funding. And the one thing I do want to comment on is that the way our program is run, and Gary, I'd invite you to come to the Farmland Agricultural Land Preservation.
Very familiar with it.
When they do the rankings, okay? One of the key points of the rankings of who gets selected, who doesn't get selected, is the best fertile soils that we want to, you know, hopefully protect for generations to come. So, and also that there is a plan. There is actually a plan. They were asked a couple of years ago to put together a projected goal. They did that. We haven't come anywhere near
That's
that.
not a plan.
Okay. In any event, I don't want to continue with this. Nobody is suggesting, though, that you know, we're in favor of farmland preservation and that we're not in favor of economic development. So I think that needs to be pointed out. This is about a balance, and you know, I will say it's, you know, it's one of the only tools that we have as county commissioners, you know, with respect to development. You know, how much of our farmland do we want to protect? You know, we see so many acres being gobbled up for more warehouses. But this is a way that we can actually preserve rich farmland in perpetuity.
So now the agenda is to stop warehouses?
No, I didn't say that.
Well, you just did.
No, I'm saying they're coming here
That's my
anyway.
point. How are we justifying
They're
this?
coming here anyway.
Okay.
They're coming here anyway. This is an effort to try to protect more of our rich farmland. That's what this is about. You know, as far as economic development, I thought what Dr. Witham brought up yesterday, excellent idea. You know, what can we do to promote, you know, advanced manufacturing industries to come here? How can we promote, you know, bringing maybe some of Carnegie Mellon's robotics folks here, if they're involved in the area of defense contracts? I mean, there's a lot of good things that we can be doing, and I support our county's economic development efforts, and I support our workforce development efforts. So this is not an either-or situation, in my opinion. But I would just say whether we can, I think we ought to have a motion, you know, to authorize, because we'll do the certification. We'll do the certification early next year. Part of the problem with the way the process worked is nobody understood that those dollars that, you know, essentially we're talking about won't be coming out of the general fund until the following year. But it's the time when we talk about the budget. It's the time when we talk about the 2019 program budget. So this is the time we should be making those decisions, and when we're putting everything, you know, together. So, you know, do we need a motion on any of this then, or have we essentially by consensus then agreed to $500,000 from the general fund for farmland preservation, $17,000 for the downtown program, and $100,000 for the
And our land partnerships is the
land partnerships?
It's all been coming out of Act 13. I think 2 years ago, this board decided to put all of Act 13 in land partnerships. That has not changed. Dana, you left that in the budget. I think, guys, we're going to do a motion just to make this clear and transparent, so there's no debate. Minutes are recorded correctly. Even though it may not have to be done, it should. Let's first start with the CADIC request. Is there a motion?
Can you represent and do them all as one so it reflects what's in the budget document?
You can.
Okay, so here we have CADIC amount, we have housing development amount, and farmland preservation amount. As I stated earlier, I charged Sandy with getting a policy in effect so that starting in 2019, when we're sitting here, we will have some agreement, whether it be a percentage of revenue, percentage of cash reserves, some type of financing arrangement, which board may end up being what we're doing directly out of general fund. Something that we will have in time that we can all agree upon that is the most efficient way to allocate money, not just for farmland preservation, but that'll be the key topic this time, but for all our expenditures. And I think we can have that along the project plan to begin with the other stuff. So
I really ask that we include, I know it's already allocated from the Act 13. I asked that the land partnerships number be part of that, so that's locked in, so we don't end up having another debate about cannibalizing that, which has occurred here in the past. We're going to lock in these numbers through a motion. That should be part of the motion.
So the numbers I'm looking at now is 17, 100, and 500,000. So if
And how much from land partnership? 260,000?
It's
It's fair.
it's not been
So we know what it
identified yet, but you can make the motion that all the proceeds stay with LPP.
Yeah, I mean, some of the Act 13 money goes to a bunch of, goes in other directions too, like from the Conservation District and also for, I think that some of it goes for roads or bridges rather.
That is correct, and that's outside of this, because the legislation or whatever was enacted points
But
to
essentially
those
what we're
places.
saying is what's remaining from Act 13 can go into land partnership.
So what is allocated to that type of expense, yes.
Well, I'm agreeable.
Yeah, and it has been, I believe, the last 2 years.
So is there a motion? I think we have an understanding as to what the motion is.
I'll move for an affirmation of the allocations as specified to promote the county's comprehensive plan in the 2019.
You want to spell out those allocations?
Okay, specifying the Housing and Redevelopment Authority's downtown revitalization program in the amount of $17,000. Cumberland Area Economic Development Corporation in the aggregate amount of $100,000, equal shares to be divided among the two initiatives as outlined, workforce development being one, military base preservation being the second. Also, the budget amount of $500,000 to be certified later, but allocated as such. $500,000 for the farmland preservation, as well as affirming the full allocation of Act 13 monies received by the county to the land partnerships program.
Okay, I think that's a rather lengthy and accurate motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further comment, questions on the motion?
Yeah, I did want to just add this additional comment that, as part of this policy that we're going to be working on in the coming year to try to arrive at a way to address this, I guess, more comprehensively. I also think it's important that we take input from the boards and commissions that we appoint, who spend many hours, essentially coming up with solid recommendations for our consideration. So somewhere along the way, because I will say that I think that, again, the recommendation of the Farmland Preservation Board and their members was a very reasonable and responsible proposal. I'm disappointed that we didn't consider that, or at least come up with something that provided a little more money. At $750,000 from the general fund, we could preserve an additional 117 acres in perpetuity in our county. But it is what it is. So we'll continue to work toward this. And I also just want to say that I appreciate the fact that we can discuss these things and come to an agreement. And I appreciate Vince's leadership and Gary's cooperation, trying to address these important issues. This is going to be a good budget year, 5th year of no tax increase for our citizens. And we got a lot of things going for us in Cumberland County, and I want to commend my colleagues for their work, to continue our leadership on behalf of our citizens.
One additional, I won't call it a stipulation, but if we're since the comment was made that we need to listen to the recommendations of outside groups, quite frankly, then I think we need to give equal weight to the idea of our budget projections. And as we plan for the out years and what we can afford, we can't just look at the fact that, oh, we have more money than we expected this year, because it divorces us from the reality of those things that we know that are coming next year or the year after that. And those are obligations we will have. So I think we absolutely should be looking at our multi-year budget projections as we look. If we're going to talk about a long-term plan, we have to consider the long-term impacts and the long-term revenues. So I just want to state that you're going to be hearing that from me again. We need to not look at how much money we had more than we expected at the end of 1 year. We need to look at our financial standing over a multi-year course.
I want to thank my colleagues on this board. We can sit here and talk civilly about issues. Some of them we have disagreeing opinions. You know what? That's good. It's healthy. But we can work together here, as this motion indicates. The three of us agreed on a number for farmland preservation. That has not happened on this board for many years. Now, is there any significance in that? Maybe not. But it shows to me that the three of us can talk and discuss an issue. And we will work this issue out so that it is more transparent next year, I hope, because it is a very important matter. Man, farmland preservation in this county is critical, and we will do our best to see that it continues. We have a motion, we have a second, we have comments. All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Motion carried. Thank you, gentlemen.
And Matt, do you remember your way out?
Yeah.
Okay, is there any other business today? Okay, hearing none, we're adjourned.